Well, it tends to be dull and drab, doesn't it, normally, when you watch Scotland?
Cure for insomnia.
Really?
Yeah, they've exceeded all expectation last night. No one saw that coming, not even you.
All right, okay.
But back to McTominay.
All right, we're starting with disrespect, and we'll go on with that.
No, just a bit of brutal honesty.
Okay.
The strengths that McTominay...
You didn't think it was part of your job here to watch the game and then come in prepared, either of you. But that's fine.
No.
Sorry, Edward, I'll come to you in a second. Danny.
I was watching a rerun of
I didn't
Songs of
speak to you,
Praise.
Longshanks. Not yet. Danny, sorry, you were saying about McTominay.
McTominay showed the best aspects of his game.
Yeah.
Great energy, great physicality, good technical ability when he wants. People don't see that side of him as much, but because he can get up and down the pitch so well, he's capable of scoring many more goals at United than he does. Obviously, he hasn't played as much, but as I said last week, I think there'll be plenty of clubs wanting to take him if United aren't going to play him.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it, Hampden now has only seen 2 defeats in 18 competitive games. It's become a fortress. Spain, for that matter, had not lost in 19 European Championship qualifiers. And Scotland are top of Group A. So they're giving themselves every chance, Danny. That's the thing, aren't they? 2 out of 2, like England, 2 out of 2, but they're giving themselves every chance.
Well, it's a brilliant foundation to work from. I think they got Turkey. Is it Turkey they got in the group? Or Norway next, sorry.
Does your research continues to know no bounds?
Well, I only know about England's group.
Look
for a player.
Yeah.
It's a great
Look, there's
start.
not a couple of cleaners in the 17th floor we could get in to take over from these two.
We're normally playing for Scotland.
Well, someone needs cleaning in
They'll
here.
be better informed. Yeah.
I think they've given themselves a great start.
Good. So
great
we beat
start.
Turkey, we could get there. All right.
Norway, I said.
Oh, Norway, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Norway.
You mentioned
was
Turkey
it?
in there as well.
Yeah.
Afterwards, Manchester City and Spain's Rodri was full of it.
Is the way they play. You have to respect that. At the end, for me, it's a bit rubbish because it's always wasting time. They, how do you say, they provoke you, and they always fall. Like, this is, for me, it's not football. You have to try to, for the spirit of the sport, you have to move on. But the referee has to take part on this, and if it says nothing, it's a bit frustrating.
I mean, Danny, that's almost laughable, isn't it? I mean, why would he stoop to those depths purely because he left Glasgow last night with not a point? I mean, Spain disappointed, to say the least. I can tell you, neither of you saw it. But in the latter stages of this game, they were passing the ball out of the park on a regular basis. They couldn't find each other on the pitch. They were so poor, it beggared belief. And he's saying Scotland's style of play and the refereeing.
I always find it annoying when players start looking to blame something else other than themselves for losing football matches.
Right.
I've talked many times on the show about that blame culture that was kicked out of me and kicked out of the Liverpool lads when Houllier came in, and it stuck with me for my career. You've got to look first and foremost at yourselves. You've got enough quality on the pitch. You can't, I did hear someone talking about the grass being too long. The ref, I mean, come on, Rodri, he's lacked class there. And he's lacked experience, and what he should be saying, even if he doesn't really mean it, is we weren't at the races. They did really well.
Yeah.
But there's more. There's another game to come.
Yeah.
And that type is fine. Nobody, we'll have to put it right. To actually go down the line he did, and disregard or disrespect what Scotland actually achieved and how well they played and whatever style.
Yeah. I mean, he couldn't bring himself to say anything positive about the Scots.
If he's got anything about him, which I think he probably has, he'll probably look back at that today and think,
yeah,
that's silly.
Yeah,
it's just a classic case of letting emotion get the better of you.
Sure. Keith, good morning to you. Keith tells us he was at Hampden last night. What an atmosphere, what a result. Not getting carried away, but the present team are looking very good. Keith, you're not wrong. Bill's a Rangers and Scotland fan. Bill, good morning. What's your take on it?
Good morning, Jim. Thank you very much for winning the 10 and 6s for me way back in the day with Honours 3.
Oh, yes, in the south side of Glasgow. I know where you are, Bill. What did you make of that? 2-0 against Spain. How does it rank?
I think it ranks very high. We've had some wonderful times up there. And, I'm a bit concerned. I understand where Van and them are coming from, but you have to look at where we've come from. England have come through in the last few seasons. They're at the top table now. And so they should be with the resources, but they get plenty of praise. Scotland did something quite special last night, and we can only play with the players we've got. But with respect to Danny and them, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, etc. When they win things traditionally, they've had some Scots in their team, and we could all name them all. So give some respect and some.
I think you're dead right, Bill. Well said. I mean, Bill's got a point, hasn't he?
I think it's a remarkable result. Does it reinforce your belief that Scotland can win the Euros?
I don't know. Is Bill still with us? Bill, what do you think? It certainly reinforces my belief that they will get there, and that has to be the aim in the short term.
As you said, Simon, obviously they're not going to win the Euros, but 4 years ago you'd never have thought England were going to win it. They've been on a journey. I think they still don't have.
I still don't think they will either. So, yeah.
But you know, they're on a journey, and we've had a lot of hard times up there. And to see some guys who are playing in the English Premier League representing Scotland, is a move forward. And I think you have to praise Steve Clarke for building that.
I think that's right. I think you're absolutely right.
Bill,
I think there has been
well
some.
said.
I mean, he's saying lack of respect. We were talking about us not watching the game. The respect they have for the performance is huge. I've been talking about people like McTominay last week, Robertson for years on his quality. I've spoken highly about Steve Clarke many times on here because I've met him. I even interviewed him at one point, in which it was great. He was brilliant, and I'm actually really impressed with him. I've always liked him. So the respect is there. That's just.
I mean,
somebody.
it's always been the hysteria coming from the Scottish press after the European Championships when you lost a couple of games. Was counteracted by me suggesting that actually Scotland were going in the right direction, they were performing well in these games, and that the idea that Steve Clarke should be sacked after the European Championships was poor. Now, we have to live in a situation, Jim, where we live in a studio with you, where you constantly turn around and say, if England win anything, it'll be your worst day. So you have to have something.
If England win anything, it would be my worst day.
Yes, when you sat on it,
I've never said
if
that.
England win the European, yeah, you did. We can get the audio. If England
that.
win the European Championships, it'll be my worst day.
Is that where we're reduced to this mic? You said that, and I said this, and you said that, and I said this.
We're setting
Long
the tone.
shanks. Last night,
Scotland
Scotland beat Spain by 2-0, and it goes down as one of the greatest ever. Certainly, it rates with November 1999, when I sat behind a goal with former broadcaster, former Celtic and Scotland winger Davy Provan. And England lost to Scotland by a 1-0. Don Hutchison with a header. But you lot still went through on aggregate. And we bow to that because you qualified and Scotland didn't. But we won at Wembley that night. Last night put that in mind for me. A great Scotland win. Our international tournaments, though, Danny, richer here on these isles with the other home nations present along with England. I mean, when another home nation begins to do well, and Wales beat Latvia last night, that should not go amiss, ranked 133 in the world, 1-0, following the 1-1 draw away to Croatia. So there's life after Bale, isn't there, for the Welsh?
Yeah, but in terms of your first part of the question, I always enjoy tournaments more when we've got more home nations there.
Yeah.
100%. Irrelevant of the silly rivalry and silly comments we have in here or anywhere else for that matter. The Irish travel amazingly well. The Scottish. I was at one of the Welsh games. I did two of them, I think, in the World Cup. Tremendous fans. I mean, the national anthem that the Welsh fans belted out in the stadium I was at was, back of your neck. I think when you have an association with players every week and you're watching them in the Premier League and you see their journey growing up and coming up to play at that level, you're going to want to follow them more in these tournaments, and that with the home nations, you're going to want them to do well. A lot of these lads are playing for the clubs you support week in, week out, irrelevant of their nationality.
Yeah.
And the gentleman who spoke was right. I mean, some of my memories growing up of Liverpool, Kenny was my hero. Scottish.
Yeah.
Remember Stevie Nicol, Ronnie Whelan, Irish.
Of course.
These are all part of the journey of growing up in this country and watching players thrive, yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if you want to give us a call, you can. We'll see if we can whip a few more of you on throughout the morning. Where does it rank amongst your national side's greatest night? Scotland fans, is that up there? Is it the very best? I heard Charlie Adam on earlier on.
What is it for you, Jim? Because you go well back with the Scots.
It's got to be. It's certainly
What's
up
it
there.
comparable to?
I mentioned November 1999 when I thought it was going to be too much. Paul Scholes had done the business for England at Hampden, and then Scotland went south. They were trailing on aggregate. Could they turn it around? They went out 2-1. Yeah. But Scotland won that night at Wembley 1-0 thanks to Don Hutchison. Last night has to be up there. Maybe it was the very best. If it was, and you're in agreement with that, well, you're more than welcome to come on and tell us just that. 03717 223344 81089. I saw it the other day. England, 2 wins out of 2. Yeah. Now Scotland, 2 wins out of 2. There's Alex in Edinburgh. Jim, the disrespect's to be expected. If England had beaten Spain, we wouldn't hear the last of it this morning. Alex, you're right, especially on your last point. What a couple of melts you work with. I tell you, Alex, that's been kind to them. 10:15.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.